this is one of our first Kidmin office hours. So the concept of it is that in this event, what we're going to do is we're going to cover questions coming from you. If you don't have questions but want to get to banter on some of these things in the chat, you can throw them out live. We'll throw out some possible topics to cover tonight as well, to be able to stir the conversation. But this is an opportunity for us to just tackle different questions that might be on your mind in a live format. There is the distinct possibility, if you have a webcam on your computer or phone and you'd like to actually get to ask your question live, that we can share the stage with you as well and you can be able to hop in. So Jillian, welcome. Glad you made it.
Hi.
All right. Okay. So now we'll just be waiting for Philip. But while that's happening, you'll notice that there are two areas that you can interact with us. One of the areas is questions down at the bottom. So if you look at the bottom of your interface, you'll see that there's a questions area. You can enter in your questions either in the questions area, or you can also enter them over in the chat area as well. So I'm going to go ahead and send a chat out to everybody. Hi, everyone. Here's a chat. Oops, I can't spell. I said cat. Okay, so as you can see there, my spelling is horrendous, but you'll see how the chat works. So throughout our conversation here, feel free to enter things into either the chat or the questions area. What I will say is that if you enter it into the questions area, it's easier for us to answer them in a systematic manner. So let's go ahead and let's check in on Philip one more time here.
He's in the chat.
He is. So starting out, does anybody in our current, all right, here's Philip. Does anyone in the room have any questions that you guys would like to talk about tonight? Kathy, welcome. Virginia, welcome. Stephanie, Francis, welcome. Mina, welcome. I want to give you guys a chance to throw out different questions that you might have. One of the questions that we'll start with as we're waiting for some questions to come in is, guys, last time there were some questions around discipline. You know, that's a really popular one, and a question that I hear pretty regularly is, hey, what are some fair discipline policies, especially if you're talking about that you have a bus ministry and you're trying to figure out, you know, what is an even-handed way to deal with kids that just do not want to behave. So, Philip, I'll let you actually start with this one. Oh, chime in. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, there just needs to be a clear understanding from both the kids and teachers about what will happen, and we explain that there's an escalation of force. We talk to our teachers about this.
Philip, you're kind of quiet for some reason.
Yes.
Okay.
I have it closer.
Okay. Beautiful.
Frightening. Anyway, we're talking to teachers that it's an escalation thing, so you deal with it on a minimal level as possible. You know, police will pull over somebody and shoot them, right? I mean, that's not, they don't start there. It may end there, but it, you know, so we started out with a warning. You talk to the kid and explain, hey, listen, we try not, you know, first of all, give the class rules ahead of time so everybody knows what's expected of them. And if you have an infraction, you talk to them in person and just try to just give them a warning. If they still don't listen after a couple warnings, we generally will try to just take them out so they're not disrupting the rest of the class. Just try to do a one-on-one with them, talk to them. Maybe there's something squirrely going on with them that day. Who knows? You know, they have a lot of stuff going on at their home. Talk to them one-on-one, explain what kind of problems they're causing, reintroduce them to the class. If it still happens, we'll take them out of the class and suspend them for a couple of weeks, maybe up to 2 weeks, if we have to. Again, this is all an escalation thing. Worst case, if they come back and it happens again, if it's to the detriment of the class and it absolutely is not getting any better with repeated efforts, we finally will not let them come back. And I hate that, but sometimes you cannot have a functioning class with certain kids' behavior. So that's just a quick recap.
Yeah. Jillian, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I had like major issues for a while with discipline. And what I finally did was implemented a stoplight system. So I have my helpers and I tell them, I started pretty close to the beginning. I don't start with the actual introduction of discipline, but I tell the kids, okay, these are the class rules. And if we have to remind you of the rules or you're just disobeying, you're not paying attention, you're being a disruption, we're going to tell you that you're on green. It's a warning, but you're green. You're good, but you know now. We have to talk to them a second time. We move them to yellow. And if we have to talk to them a third time, they're sat out for the rest of the class. They're on red. And I'm going to talk to their parents. And I remind them that I have their parents' phone numbers. Since I implemented this, they've been little angels. It's amazing.
Nice. Okay. I like that. Modifications to that I've seen before is I've heard of the system where you have like a board in the back of the class and you write names, right? Like first time you write the name is a warning.
That's how I do it.
Right? Yeah, like that whole thing. And I like what you were saying, Philip, and I agree with you. At our church, we have a similar type of escalation policy, right? It's just basically first phase is, okay, teacher talks to him. Second time is teacher and bus captain talks to him. If it starts to escalate further than that, then we can have a serious conversation with them where they do have to take a break. In between, we want to visit them and try to encourage them. But it is really an important balance there. We've dealt with situations where we have anything from kids that just stop acting up and trying to like yank all the attention to themselves in the classroom, being really disruptive, to more serious things like kids stealing stuff, right? I understand where people are at, where it can be really frustrating because you don't want to tell a kid that they can't come back. But at the end of the day, the flip side of the coin is naturally, if you don't deal with the situation, you could have a situation on your hand where the real good kids stop coming, and you're left with only kids that want the chaos, right? I'd say the same thing about team members, right? Like it's like that's a really tough thing. Sometimes you work so hard to keep team members that just don't want to play ball that you actually scare away some of your best team members because they're like, I can't handle this. Like, I just don't want to be around this anymore, right? So I would say same policy with kids. We want to do everything we can to reach out to them. In the interim, one of the kids that we had to do this with even set up like a Bible study with them on the weeks that they were on probation from bus. Just so that was some kind of church interaction, and so that they could tell, like, hey, we legitimately want you to keep coming. Yeah, but it's just like, but we have rules, like, please play by our rules. We really, really want you to be coming, right? So that's what I would say. Like, it's like there do have to be rules so that everybody sees, right? Even the kids that are like, hey, where did this kid go? And putting two and two together and understanding, okay, like, these guys have a rule book that they're playing by, and it's not just the Wild West. But that there has to be something so that you are trying to still reach for kids because you don't want to be so draconian that, that you're not trying to reach for them.
Well, you can have a class that's completely disrupted by one kid to the point where nobody gets anything out of it. So you've wasted a good hour of your time, but let alone the preparation, involvement, and all those kids' time, because a problem wasn't dealt with. So it's definitely, it's not fun, but you have to deal with it head on sometimes, or it's just, it'll ruin your whole day.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that people have asked before is in regard to kind of overall classroom management. Do you guys have some tips on how to be able to better manage the classroom, kind of like a well-run, peaceful environment? What type of tips do you guys have for people on that?
Kid zone is chaos. No, if for me, what I found is as long as I keep it going, I'd run across an article a few years ago that discussed like running games on like a youth night. And the person who wrote the article made the point that if you have the kids to the point they don't know what's going to happen next, they're going to be more involved. And so just kind of keeping the flow. Like I don't say, okay, class, next we're going to go do. I just go straight into it. And I found that my class kind of runs better that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Organized chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, we've gone to the last couple of weeks what we call a super class, where it's kind of a shock treatment, but we combined a lot of our age brackets into a single class. So we have from 5-year-olds and up in a single class. We're talking 190-ish kids in a single class. So it's a lot of kids. We have every 8 minutes it changes. And I got that time from watching another church, the way they ran it. But every 8 minutes it switches. So we'll start with an icebreaker. We'll go to the class rules. We'll go into a game, a skit, a puppet show, a drama. So every 8 minutes it's switching object lesson, and then we'll tie it up, a giveaway, wrap up. So everybody knows their positions ahead of time. But like you said, Jillian, if you keep it mixed up and keep them guessing, the excitement level is off the charts without it being chaotic. Kids they just have a blast. They just love it. And we've only done it for 2 weeks with that number of kids, but it's kept even that number of kids manageable as long as you keep it exciting and fun.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing on discipline is I actually heard a statement that said the worst discipline problems happen in the boring classroom. And that's absolutely true. The more boring your class, the more problems you're going to have. Keep it exciting, number one. That's the first cure for discipline.
Yeah, yeah. That's.
I see a question in the chat.
Yes. So just making sure. I don't know if anybody is having issues here. Let's see. Let's verify. Somebody was saying that they still have a message at 6:11 that says it's starting shortly. So hopefully that's not happening for any of the rest of you. But
I had that, and you just hit refresh once, and it should go away.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me just write that quick. Okay. So the question is, what kind of curriculum do you all use? Okay. So. Okay.
First, or
yeah, go ahead, Jillian.
I write mine. I've been writing my own curriculum for almost 2 years now. I think I'm almost right at 2 years.
It's good stuff too. If you've never read it before, are you going to make it available anytime soon?
Yeah,
Jillian?
that's the goal. Yeah, about those goals. It's coming. It is coming. I'm working on getting an assistant to help me.
We're actually pretty loose on curriculum over here. We're using Word of Flame for a long time, and we were just not doing enough with it. So we quit buying it, and we've been doing our own thing pretty much, where we base every day on a different topic, a different theme. And we have a list of topics that we base it off of. So one day it'll be, plan of salvation, and then it'll be whatever, just teams every week. So everything in that day, from the game all the way through even the giveaway, should apply to that theme. But there's no script. It's just whatever teacher wants to do on their piece of it, we let them do it. And it's pretty exciting. It's amazing what they come up with when they're not given a script.
Yeah.
It's pretty original.
Mm-hmm. So
just in curriculum at all.
Yeah, I'm really torn on this topic. I personally, for my kids' church experiences, I don't use curriculum. Right now, me and the team just create it month to month. And different from Jillian, unfortunately, I am not good at documenting that kind of stuff. It would be fun to actually turn it into something. But I've also seen the flip side of the coin when sometimes, especially, I don't know why this is, but it seems like with the older classes, if they don't have curriculum, depending who's running it, they don't really know what to do, or it just becomes purely a Bible study, and that's tough too, right? So it's a fine line to walk. I would say, here's some thoughts and tips. Stephanie, you're asking for any tips on writing your own. I really liked what Philip said. I follow a similar rule of when I'm structuring out the whole class and lesson and kids' church experience. What I'm typically doing is I'll literally just take an Excel sheet and I'll just break it up into 5-minute chunks, and I'll write out what am I doing every 5 minutes, right? Like I forget what book it's from. I think it's like a Malcolm Gladwell book. I think it was from Tipping Point, when they talk about the philosophy of why Sesame Street works and why Blue's Clues works, right? It's because it's just like things are happening, and it's actually just like different ways of repetition that's causing kids' brains to be crammed with knowledge, right? So, like what Philip was saying, for me, oftentimes I will actually want to get the maximum use out of each activity, but it's a different way of talking about the same thing. The game talks about the same thing. The next game talks about the same thing. Maybe there's a fun cartoony video that shows that, or of people that did a skit or something. There used to be this software where you could, I forgot the name of it. It was like Zeno something, and you could just use a microphone and create these animations, and the mouths of the animation would talk, right, as you talked. So it's we did stuff like that. We've also done skits, and the whole idea is everything lines up and is just teeing up the ball for when you actually teach the main lesson, right? And hopefully in that main lesson, you've got an object lesson with it, and it just all ties together, right? To just throw this out, I have heard people have a lot of different formats. I'm going to come from the kids' church angle when it comes to if you do worship and when you do worship. And so I've tried a couple different ways, and I'll give you guys an idea of what I personally like right now. I've tried it where I modeled it just like church, and in church, normally we start with worship, and then we go into the preaching. So I tried that for a while. It was okay. Then, what we've been doing for a good while now, after I switched up the format, I wanted to try and see what would happen if I actually did worship in the middle, right? So do all the fun stuff, do all the crazy stuff, the games and everything else, and have the worship right before the main lesson, right? And here's just my personal thought on this. What I find is, it's definitely nice because the activity level and all that stuff is ramped up really high because you're doing the games and all the crazy stuff from there. And then you bring them a little more serious with the worship, and it just kind of ushers in the presence of God there. And your lesson can coast off of just what's happening atmosphere-wise in the room at that point, right? Because for me, I try to really keep my lesson 5 to 10 minutes, right? So it's like everything else was teaching that, and now I'm just yanking the bow tight, right? So then I'm just trying to hang glide from the feeling of worship into the altar call, right? With as much come on, everybody, let's go as possible. And that's kind of how I've structured things for Kids Church.
Yeah, we do the same thing, James. We definitely, we'll sing at the beginning, but it's just a fun, crazy song, just an action song that we just have a blast with. But when we get serious with the song, it'll be right before or right after the lesson. Just, I think I heard this in one of your children's church webinars, but just that funnel effect when it goes from you're trying to just get their attention, everybody have a blast, you're narrowing it to the end. It's literally you, one kid, God. That's where you're trying to end up. And so, yeah, we've noticed that, like you said, that worship right before just really helps, or right after. We'll have a lesson, then just a song that we get really serious, and then have them come pray or something. It definitely makes a big difference.
Awesome. Okay. Anything else you want to chime in on, Jillian, before we hit our next question?
Well, when I'm writing my lessons, I have the topic I want to teach. So a lot of times I'll just be like, I want to teach this topic. And then I'll look into, okay, what are some object lessons? What are some games? What's a unique way of telling the story? And I like that you guys do these time frames. But I don't know. I don't have a clock in front of me. And I'm really not good at that whole limiting myself with time. So mine's just kind of like, okay, I'm going to do this activity, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do that. But my biggest thing is I like making it so they have no idea what order things are going to be. I try to always start with prayer, but sometimes they come in and it's automatically an activity. Other times they come in and we're running outside. Sometimes they come in and we're worshiping. Other times we're starting with offering. Sometimes I start with the lesson just to throw them a curveball. And it just works because they just don't know what to anticipate. And so that kind of keeps their excitement level going. So I don't know. I just try to make sure I have many different, like you said, James, about having many different ways of presenting the same topic. So you're hammering it in their head, and then you're bringing it together with the lesson.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in on why I actually try to chunk it out.
It makes
yeah, no, well, my personality is actually very freeform. But here's why I actually started doing that, and I still have this problem, which is we run out of time. And what I kept finding was it'd be like, man, we did all this awesome stuff, and then now we're squeezed for time in the altar, because the bus team is like, come on, we got to get these kids home and everything. And, it was just that type of stuff forced me to try to figure out, okay, if I sit there and I have all these great ideas, I'm like, oh, I'm going to play this game, and then we're going to use hot air to crush this can, and then we're going to do this thing, and it's going to be awesome, and then I've got this other thing. And then I realized on paper, I'm like, I can't do all this in an hour. This is impossible, right? That was kind of why I started to have to do that. And man, I'm still finding that there's times where I get so bothered because I'm right at the main point, and then we call the altar call, and then what we have is this big ship's bell that one of our guys rings so that all the classes know that it's time to dismiss. And there's so many times where we're right at the start of our altar call, or even worse, right at the end of our lesson, and you hear the ship's bell, and it's so that is the thing that I struggle with. I don't know about you guys, but we literally, we bring our kids into service, into worship, and then they come out into whatever format of Kidmin stuff they're going to go to. And so then because of that, we start church service at 10 o'clock, and then they basically start Sunday school about 10:30 because worship's about that long. And that's it. I got from 10:30 to 11:30, so just those kids loading in, I've lost another 5 minutes. And then we just we try to get rolling right away. We started off, there's beach balls flying, there might be an intro, countdown video playing in the background and stuff like that. But it's 55 minutes, just it's not a lot of time, But yeah, I'm with you guys on that. I think it's really, really crucial to have things set up where you can look at your plan and ask yourself, is there any way a kid could get bored from this?
Yeah.
And if the answer is, I would be hard pressed to find a kid that's bored with this, or they are truly overstimulated. It's like, it's like, come on, right? Because Philip, your point is so true. If your experience is not something that's filled enough like that, it's just easier to invite bad behavior. It really is. So let's hit this next one. How are your classes divided up in ages for Sunday school? Phil, you want to start us off?
How were our classes divided up in ages?
Just making that big change. Yeah. So,
well, I'll tell you how it was. We used to do the 3 and 4 year olds in a class, the 5 through 7 year olds in another class, 8 to 10 in another class, 11 to 13 boys in a class, 11 to 13 girls in a class, and then high school. I am not defending the way it was. It's just the way it's always been. We never really questioned it. So lately, due to a lot of things, we decided to try to get everybody on the same page. And so we have this massive shift where we have 5 years old and up in a single class. It's definitely a challenge addressing all of the age groups at once, but not as much as I anticipated, honestly. The young kids have a blast. The old ones pretend they have a horrible time and yet enjoy it vicariously, while they're pretending they hate it. But that's how we're doing it now. I don't honestly anticipate that lasting forever. I can see us doing it maybe 6 months and then slowly starting to break out again once I feel it's time. But that's just us. That's not saying anybody should necessarily do that, but for a variety of reasons we had to.
Okay. Jillian.
So I have 2 classes. I've really only had 2 classes. I have ages 2 to 5 in what I call Kid Zone Junior. My 5-year-olds are trying to invade Kid Zone as well. So no, seriously. So Kid Zone is supposed to be ages 6 to 12. My 13, 14, and some 15-year-olds continue showing up on the bus. I can't get rid of them. And my 5-year-olds keep sneaking on the bus. So, it's kind of like ages sometimes 4 to 15. Wow. It's supposed to be ages 6.
That's quite the age band.
I had a 4-year-old this Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah. 15-year-old. It's really just.
If you're questioning whether you have a good class or not, if you got kids that don't want to leave or are running in early, you can want to go what's going on, because
that definitely says something. It definitely says something. I mean, I love the pictures you're posting regularly about those games and everything else that you're doing. No, I agree with you, Phil. That definitely says something. That's a really good question there, Margaret. Here's what we do. Over at First Church, we actually have it divided up like a lot. So we have 2 and 3-year-olds in one class, 4 and 5-year-olds in another class, 6 and 7-year-olds in another class, 8 and 9-year-olds in another class. Then starting from 10, there's 10 and 11-year-old boys and 10 and 11-year-old girls. Then we have 12 and up boys and 12 and up girls, right, up to 15. And then in 16, they go into the sanctuary. I'm going to tell you about just 3 thoughts on what I think about all of that. Hey, if you've got the staff, awesome, go for it, right? I think it's just fascinating how much kids change between 2 and 5, right? Like a 3-year-old versus a 4-year-old, it can be night and day, right? Never mind a 6-year-old. But I would say, like, really, I've also had to deal with situations where you just have big swaths of ages, and games and object lessons are a major cure-all, right? It's so funny. Like, Philip, the object lesson where you got the rope rope and you cut it. Oh, I did that. And the funniest thing is it's like half the time it's the adults that are actually more shocked by the object lessons than the kids are, right?
Right.
So I'm saying that because, you know, like the cool thing about that is great object lessons hit every age, right? So it's like, hey, like, you know, I say that with compassion because I grew up in a really, really small church. So we didn't have the staff. I actually had to start teaching when I was 14 because we did not have people to teach, right? So, you know, so with that, I can understand that struggle. It's like, man, like, okay, well, that's great, you know, like, James is sitting there talking about how he's got like all these people that can man all these classes, and not everybody has that situation, right? So my thought is this: I think, you know, if you can do that, do it. You know, I think with the reason we split starting at age 10 is we were really feeling like that was the age when, you know, boys and girls together start just getting really distracting, you know, where they're just like sitting there and like trying to get each other's attention more than trying to get like attention on the board and what's happening with the verse or whatever they're talking about. And the other flip side of that was also 10 and 11 is a really, really important age. And I think just overall in Kidmin, we don't know, at least I feel like I don't yet know how to really harness being able to work with that age. And there's, you know, studies show that it's right around that age where people make some of the most major decisions on what they're going to believe for the rest of their lives, you know. So hopefully we're catching them well before that, but that's a really critical age where sometimes some of the things they're tackling are conversations that they're not going to be comfortable with if it's a mixed audience of guy and girl. So it just makes it easier for the teachers to really be able to have very focused conversations where it's just guys or just girls. I think that's true all the way up, right past that age. So that's kind of why we've done those things. I'm just going to throw in one more thing here when it comes to observations on ages. You know, the way that we chunk things out for our kids' church experiences, we do it like 2 through 5 is one band of kids because we feel like that's the most similar. You know, from 6 to 9, they've really shifted. So there's like our starters, that's the 2 through 5s, our prime time kids, which are the 6 through 9, and then there's 10 and up, you know, and that's right now how we kind of break it out. So that's how we actually break out our kids' services too. We have 2 through 5-year-olds in Sing and Pray Church, and then we have 6 through 9-year-olds in Super Kids Church, and then we have 10 and up in Mid School Movement. Right, so that's kind of how we do that. It's I think we used to do puppets a lot in kids' church, but now I don't really like doing puppets if it's just like singing in kids' church. But kids in 2 through 5 absolutely adore those puppets, right? So, you know, like it's just kind of interesting to see that it's like, man, like if I didn't split it up, I feel kind of like I'm chipping out the little kids, right, on some of those things. Whereas, you know, there'd just be these like looks of death and boredom from some of our like 9 and 10-year-olds when we'd have puppets singing. So it just varies. Jillian.
Okay, so with the puppet thing, I don't think they really help with the worship part. It might just be that I don't know what I'm doing. But when I have the puppet, and I don't do it every week, like I randomly throw them out there like maybe once a month. But when I just pull them out like that and they start conversating with me and we interact back and forth, I get a lot of really good feedback from all ages. So I'm really liking the puppets. It's a new thing for me, but when I have them talking with me, so I have to get somebody that's good with the puppet, and they just start responding to me. You know, I'll say something and they'll give a little side comment and I'll comment to them, and just the conversation back and forth, the kids think it's hysterical.
Yeah. When puppets are well done, they can be attractive to, like in that massive class, I was astonished how much the older kids were enjoying the puppet show. It was because it was well done. It wasn't hokey. They practiced. They it was good. They did a great job.
Yeah.
But I think you can overuse them
Yeah.
for sure, where they do get old. And that interaction thing that Jillian was talking about is awesome. I mean, that is so cool when it's a live puppet instead of something that's going to a soundtrack all the time.
Yeah.
That's
That was going to be my question to you, right? Like, it's like, do you use puppets? Like, are you finding with that big class when you use puppets, are you actually doing any of the soundtrack stuff? Or
we did a script, but it was live script, so we actually had people talking. I don't know that really made a difference, but it's funny. Mistakes are funny. Like when a puppet does something that they weren't supposed to do, it's funny. And a soundtrack does an oops.
Yeah.
And we had a few, but it was great. But I'm not opposed to soundtracks, but those really long, windy puppet shows that just go on and on. Oh, I'd rather. They're awful.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You definitely honed in on what I was thinking. Like, you know, like I should clarify that. I actually absolutely adore puppets when it comes to people actually using them and talking into a mic and interacting as if it was just another person.
Yeah.
I think that's actually hilarious. And I don't care who you are, you know, you're going to like it, right? Like, that's really, really fun. It's not always easy to find the talent for that, you know? But you know, it just seems like 2 to 5-year-olds, you could just go ahead and just like pop in a soundtrack and have those puppets like mouthing away, and they love life. Like, those kids are just like loving life, right? But you try to do that with a 7 or 8-year-old, and their eyeballs can't roll far enough into the back of their spine, right? You know, so that, yeah, I think I agree with you. If you're actually doing the interaction and it's like it's just another person but made of cloth, you know, then I think even 10, 11-year-olds and up, it's awesome. So, yeah.
One other thing that we're on the age bracket thing is every church is going to be different. I don't think you're ever going to have the same situation in 2 different places as far as the number of classrooms, size of classrooms, the number of kids, the ages of the kids, the split of boy and girl. Every church is very unique.
Yeah.
So, you know, you do the best you can, you listen to recommendations, but ultimately you have to base it on your own resources at your church. And it won't match what San Jose does or what Jillian does, or it won't. It might, but it's luck if it does.
Yeah. You'll definitely find, you know, so this dovetails into Stephanie's question here about, okay, so she mentions her and her husband became children's pastors, and they're over the Sunday school department now. So how often do you meet with your team to plan? You know, one of the things that I was going to say, like, kind of dovetails into that, is it depends what teams you're talking about, you know. But here's what I mean by that, right? Like with kids' church, shame on me, I haven't really been doing it lately. But what I used to do was, like, the Sunday night after every kids' church, I'd just quickly get a quick little tag in with the people that were helping me run it, you know, the teachers that were involved and any of the other team members. And we'd be like, hey, how did it go? What did you like? What didn't you like? Like, how did it go? Right? What would we do again? What will we never do again? Right? And that type of thing. So, you know, there's some meetings that feel all formalized, and others is just, hey, let's just take a notebook out and just quickly make sure to capture anything anybody's thinking. Right? I think trying to figure out how often to meet. I don't know, me personally, I think a monthly cadence is very normal and almost necessary. You know, depending if it's a special project that you're working on, sometimes we just have different initiatives that we're trying to do. You might have to do more frequently than that. But what do you guys think? Philip, chime in.
We meet right after class because we have that real big class, so we have a lot of people in there. And the second the kids walk out the door, we get together and just like,
Awesome.
Weekly. And the main thing is just what really do we have to fix before next week, and then we assign the positions for the next week. So we'll have the next week's schedule up, and we'll say, okay, who are you doing the song? Are you doing the skit? And we assign all those. That way you have a full week to prepare for your piece of the lesson. because unlike the way we used to do it, where you were prepared everything, every teacher had to prepare a full hour. Now we have enough bodies in there because we crammed them all together that you have one segment. So you got 8 minutes in it. Make it the best 8 minutes you've ever done. So that's what we do every week. Do a quick 10, 15-minute meeting. And then right before class also, we'll get together for just a few minutes to pray about the class. And then we'll just say, recap what's about. And then, of course, we have periodic planning meetings. And that would, like you said, maybe once a month or even once every other month to get together and really hash out, okay, what on a bigger picture needs to change rather than just 1 week away.
Thoughts, Jillian?
I've recently finally instituted monthly meetings. Just a little difficult for me to get accomplished, but I found that it's so helpful. I wish that I checked in with the whole team every week. I can't figure out how to get it accomplished. But the monthly meetings have definitely been helpful. Philip, I love that you assign the sections to the lesson, that they have to own their little 8-minute segments. That's like, I think I'm going to steal that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, but I definitely agree with James. The monthly check-ins are extremely important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I think, Stephanie, some of what to think about is, what components are there on your team, right? I'll give you an idea of what I mean by that, right? Like if you're mainly focused on Sunday school, there's different groups will be meeting in different ways and times, right? Like from a classroom level, hopefully the classes just have a quick tag in after class every single week, right? Like exactly like what Philip was saying. That's the hope. But then you might need to have, if you have multiple classes, the leads from every class meet together once a month with you and your husband, Stephanie, right? So then you guys tag in and go over that. If you have multiple ministries under you from a Kidmin perspective, like for me, I have to balance, okay, I'm going to meet with the bus team some months, maybe all months. Am I going to meet with the leads in Sunday school this month, not meet? Like what I try to do is if you have bus and Sunday school, it's that you meet with each individually at least once a quarter. And then, at least once a quarter, you also actually have both teams meet together, right? All the leaders meet together. So I'll have like a meeting with the captains. The next month I'll have a meeting with just the leads. If I can, figure out when that works. And then I like having a leads and captains meeting because there's actually some stuff worth discussing amongst both teams. Like it's like, hey, how do we make sure that there's higher communication between bus and Sunday school for keeping these kids records or keeping these kids coming or, figuring out sooner when a kid has stopped coming, those type of things. So, just throwing out some different things to consider that, in those cadences, what you might do. Something I'm going to throw out at both of you guys before we hop into this next question is when you are meeting, do you have some advice for the people in the room on what to meet about, what you think is important to meet about?
Are you talking the monthly or the weekly?
Well, from her perspective, she is asking as, from like a head of children's ministry, right? Like you might be a leader meeting with leaders, right? Or you might be, meeting with people from that type of context. So let's take it as something outside of just like a quick classroom huddle type of thing, and it's more like larger strategic. How would you answer that one?
Okay.
Good, Jordan.
I like to start off with the accomplishments that have been made.
Uh-huh.
So, last time we met, we had these goals. I told you that I had a vision for this and that. And look where we are. I try to share testimonies of amazing things that God has accomplished in the last amount of time. Because I want them to start off with that mindset. I want them to get their vision moving. And then I go into, okay, So here's some little road bumps we're going through. How are we going to fix these? And then usually after that, it's all planning. If I'm meeting, it's because I'm wanting their input, and I try to encourage them. My biggest thing is encouraging them that they have talent, that they can share, that they're bringing to the table, that I don't have teachers to just stand at the sidelines and teach what I give them.
Yeah.
They're amazing already themselves too. So.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Philip, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not real good about planned meetings. It seems like we call a big meeting.
Closer.
Oh, sorry. I'm not real good about planning regular meetings just for regular things. It seems like we do a meeting when something big's about to happen or when something's really bad, that we got to fix. So I have a very clear structure in those cases. There's no question about what we're going to talk about. So, I need to do better. I need to make a monthly deal. We're going to cover this no matter what, even if nothing bad has happened or nothing really, really big is changing. We're going to have a meeting plan. So I'm enjoying this piece of it as much as you guys, as everybody else is. I need to get better at that.
Well,
But like you said, it's huge. They can go into what needs fixed.
Yeah. A structure I've kind of mentioned to people before is it's like basically three major components, right? Like it's like the kind of just talking about, you might start with just talking about like things that are wins that you as the leader specifically see are tied to the vision. So people are seeing like, okay, cool. Like, like we are accomplishing the vision. And then the second portion of things is more kicking into accountability, right? Like what are things that the team was supposed to do and did we do it? And if we didn't, what's blocking it, right? Let's just as a team like bust through this stuff together, right? Who needs to do what? What don't you know? How do we get it done? And then the third part would be wrapping up with the feel good of just testimonies, right? Like what are awesome things that are happening that nobody even knows about? And if we didn't talk about it, just vanish into the ether, but it's, God's doing something really good in your spot, right? Your classroom, your route. So I'm offering that because sometimes, you get into them, you're like, okay, well, I need to get into a monthly meeting cadence. And then there's not the type of thing like you're talking about, Philip, where it's really clear. It's like, hey, we are going to talk about this stuff and we're going to get it done today, right? There's just kind of, hey, like we're meeting because it was on the calendar and we're going to do it. So my recommendation is it's like if you follow that kind of format sandwich, there's always something that everybody's still accountable for that you can talk about. There's always got to be some kind of wins that you as the leader are noticing that you say to yourself, hey, I like that, I saw that, and I want more of that you can point out as a way to kind of like compass guide people. And then everybody really likes being able to get a chance to share the good things that are happening, So it's like, I think sometimes leaders are challenged with, it's like, okay, well, I've got a monthly meeting that I know I'm supposed to do. At First Church, actually, that's there's a form that we're supposed to fill out that goes to Pastor Shoemake that says, did you have a monthly meeting? And that's like one of the things that department heads are supposed to do. And that's sometimes the challenge. We're like, hey guys, we're here and we're meeting, what happened, right? And so that's my recommendation on structure, just to give some ideas. So, okay, well, we got a doozy here for the next one. What are your discipline procedures? Do you have a written policy?
I feel like I'm having
So, okay. So we kind of covered it in the very beginning, but maybe we can get a point of clarification here from Stephanie. So Stephanie, I don't know if you missed that very beginning part where we're talking about what happens with discipline, like if there's kids that are really misbehaving in class and we have to actually take them out, and the policy of escalation up. But maybe there's kind of a twist to this that you want to talk about when it comes to discipline procedures. So if you want to chime in on that, that'd be great. Okay. Okay, she did miss it. Okay. Maybe give a quick recap, Philip. I liked what you had said. So if you want to give a quick recap of that. No worries, Stephanie. This is for you guys.
The short version is just a clear explanation to both the students and the teachers of the escalation of force, for lack of a better term is what I'll use. So a kid knows that when they disrupt in class, it's just going to be a warning, and the teachers know it's just going to be a quick warning to the kid. If it happens again, we'll warn them again. After the third time, we'll generally try to get them out of the situation where they're not disrupting the rest of the class. Get them out of the room, talk to them one-on-one, try to work it out there, try to figure out where their head's at. Maybe something goofy's happening at home. Who knows? If you can reintroduce them to the class at that point, great. Hopefully they can make it through class and they'll have a better day next week. If not, and it just keeps getting worse, then we take it to the next level, which is keep them out of class to the end, take them home to their parents, talk to their parents, and say, I'm sorry, they cannot continue acting like this in class. At that point, depending on the severity, we may let them come back the next week, or we may give them a suspension for a couple weeks. If it happens after that, and again, you got to play it by ear, but sometimes you cannot let the kid come back at all based on how bad it's been. But we make it clear, this is what will happen if you do this. So everybody knows it, from the teachers to the kids, what will happen. As far as it being written, I'd love to say I actually have it in writing. I don't, but it's a very understood verbal policy that we know. So it's not on paper necessarily.
Yeah, I'm at the same place. Jillian, anything you want to chime in on that? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely don't have a written policy. But what I said earlier is I do like a stoplight. So green is their first warning. They're all good, not in trouble, just they've been told. Yellow is, okay, that's it. You've had 2 warnings now. You've got to slow down. You got to fix things right now and start behaving. And then red light is they sit out for the rest of the class, and I will be calling their parents. Since implementing this, it has gone really well for my class. But yeah, that's what I do. No written policy.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. In the poll, just throwing this out there, there's the people who took the poll. There's actually more doing children's church than there are doing Sunday school. So if there are any, children's church specific questions, toss them out there. We'd love to answer them. Yes, as of what I know, there should be a replay for everyone that's on this. So you'll be able to hear that first part. Okay. Okay. Good point, Margaret. The's no place for all 3.
I wanted to do all of them as well.
You know what? Okay. Here we go. Just for you guys. All right. Okay, updating it. Okay, go ahead. Select all of the above now. It is now an option. Oh, look, it's changing. Whoa, all kinds of stuff is changing. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
I noticed she asked, is the stoplight for the whole group or individual? It's individuals. And it's in the back of the classroom, so people aren't being called out in front of the whole class. I don't think I specified that. So my helpers actually go and they'll tap the kid on the shoulder and they'll say, hey, this is what you're doing. So I'm going to write your name on the board. So this is how you fix it. So it is individual, and it's definitely, let me clarify. It's not up front in front of everybody.
Another interesting hybrid of this is that whole like balloons thing, like especially for like kids church, where and you could do it where like
mine is children's church.
So So yeah, so like basically like at the front of the room, you have like balloons, taped to maybe a board or something like that. And, you split the room in half or something, right? And you've got 3 balloons on one side, 3 balloons on the other. And it's like if you have any balloons left at the end of kids' church, there's gonna be a candy rain for your side of the room, right?
Ooh.
And any time like there's like a problem, and somebody's like really trying to hijack the experience, you just pop a balloon, you know.
I love it.
And yeah, so you do like, it doesn't have to be a big deal, you just kind of pop the balloon and you just keep on rolling, right? So that's a possible way to go about it as well, where especially like just throwing out options, right? Like I like what you're saying as well, the red light, green light, the board in the back of the room, those type of things. What I find for kids church is sometimes, especially depending on the size of your group, like you have a pretty decent sized group, Jillian. So, like this is more like a mass way of dealing with behavior issues, like, and all the kids are like, come on, man, you're going to take away our candy, like, and everybody's kind of like helping you regulate.
It gets more disruptive for my class. I don't know why, but if I do things like that, it actually, I've tried things similar, but now I want to try that because the balloons are like, oh man, I love it.
Yeah, so that's maybe that is an interesting one too. Like you wanted to chime in, Philip. What's in your thoughts?
Another thing you can do is if there's a certain kid that's just acting crazy, you can use them in a helper role. Get them involved in the class. Like you are going to be the just give them a silly job, a busy job. Like your job is to move this chair. Or not really, but your job is to handle name tags. Your job is to make this row of chairs, make sure it is as straight as it can possibly be for the rest of class. I don't know. Anything just to keep them occupied, it can help. Just keep them busy.
Yeah.
They feel important.
Yeah. I'll throw out there with like, it's like a lot of times, it's probably not the right time to really get to dive too much into this, but I've brought up multiple times about my love for like subgroups within classrooms and other things like that. Like my big thing is it's like a lot of times for kids, like they need to get the wiggles out and they need to be able to get whatever it is that's on their mind off their mind. And sometimes that just makes the rest of the classroom experience so much better. They just really needed to tell somebody about their goldfish, or they really needed to tell somebody about how they went to this amusement park, and they just really need to let somebody know. Once that's out, they're like chilling, they're ready to like follow our things that we want them to be doing, but till then it's like, you don't understand, this roller coaster was awesome, right? And they just like spend the whole time wanting to tell somebody about this. So, we try to kind of help them get that stuff out. And so we split up our classes where there's, different groups, and some adult can be told about this roller coaster or this goldfish, right? So there's some questions here. We are quickly running out of time, but let's see if we can tackle these. Stephanie, when you say, do you do that every week? Are you clarify what you mean by that. Let's take a look at this next question. What do you do for first-time visitors? Ooh, what do you do for first-time visitors? Jillian, anything fun you do for first-time visitors?
I introduce them. I don't make them stand up or anything because I would have cried as a kid if they did that to me. But it's so obvious that I would have, right? But I give them a Bible. Cool. Every kid that comes into Kids Zone, they're going home with the Bible. And it's become a big deal for them that they have their Kids Zone Bible. And then I also give them a candy because every kid that comes, everybody that has their Bible each Sunday gets candy. Mm-hmm. So the kids that are just getting their Bible, they get their I brought my Bible credit.
I like that.
That's what I do.
Oh, that's really fun. Okay. Yeah. Philip.
We give them the extra dollars for the Sunday school store that they get to spend at the end of class. And that's a big explanation, but they get extra dollars for bringing a new friend, and the friend that just came gets extra dollars as well. I'm in the process of making a visitor gift bag for new kids,
I love
but
that.
it's one of those things on my to-do list that I haven't got to yet. It'll have a church flyer in it. It'll have pencils, erasers, a Bible, I don't know,
That
just
is so
stuff a
smart.
kid would like, candy, whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't done it, but it's on my list.
I know how that feels. Jillian.
Whose gift store did I see posted this week? Was that yours or yours? Like, because it was incredible.
Is mine.
Okay, everybody needs to go on Blue Bomber and see their store. Oh my word. It looks like Chuck E. Cheese or something. It's incredible. Just sorry.
That's exactly what we were going for. That's exactly what we were going for. You know, like we try to figure out what the shock and awe value would be. It's like, okay, so these kids go to Chuck E. Cheese and they have to play skee ball for like 4 hours, you know, and then take home like a little ring with a spider on it. You know, like what can we do to elicit that kind of excitement about Sunday school, right? So that's totally, like I mentioned in the video, like our main inspirations are, what would you be excited about getting from Chuck E. Cheese, and what would you be excited about getting from 7-Eleven, right? Like, because these kids are always hitting up 7-Eleven for all these like candies and stuff like that. So that's what you'd find, little toys and candies. That's a lot of what we got. So
yeah.
And Philip, you had that really cool place that you order your stuff from. What was that again?
Yeah.
U.S. Toy Company. I can't remember this link. The URL is like ustoy.com or something. Don't go there randomly. Look at U.S. Toy Company.
Yeah, that's true.
Their sales, and they had like a bulk section. And I haven't ordered there for a few months, but when I did, they had some smoking deals. I mean, they had stuff that you could buy for just a couple pennies a piece if you bought in bulk. You know, you buy a couple hundred of them for, I can't remember what it was, you know, $10-15 for a couple hundred of yo-yos or whatever.
And yeah,
that was the best.
Yeah, and you know, I will say that the reason I say like think about Chuck E. Cheese is because sometimes like you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out how to stock your store, and you're thinking in your mind's like, how are these kids gonna even like this? You know, this is not enough. But like seriously, like they go to Chuck E. Cheese and they barely come home with anything, you know?
Yeah.
So if they just come home with a few things and it's incentivizing for the things you really care about, like that's a win. Like don't feel so bad about it. I just feel like people beat themselves up for their stores that they have. Yeah.
In our store, James, like we make a Bible $1. You get you get $1 just for showing up. So a kid could buy a Bible every week. I don't care. They can pay their, go in every person in the family for all I care. And then we do have the little stuff, but we have bigger ticket items, more for to wet their whistle, the bike or the big toys in there that one kid in 100 is going to actually save up for. It's in there. Kids rarely ever do it, but they do occasionally. We buy a MP3 player that was like $200 or something. It was unbelievable. Couldn't believe it. So, but for the most part, they'll spend it on a Tootsie Roll.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let me see. Well, possibly, I think we're going to call it a night for now. But wrapping up, hey, thanks everybody for joining us. This was the first of these. But if there's good feedback from this and a good level of interest, we're looking to do this every other month. We'll sprinkle in between different topics that we're going to focus on and cover. Next month is actually going to be the topic of games. So game transformers with Jillian. And so Jillian is going to be talking to us about some examples of games, and something that I think you do really well, Jillian, is I liked that article you wrote, how you were mentioning it's like, hey, like just with this one game, there's like multiple ways that you could have used this for different lessons, different ways to go about it. So that's going to be coming up next month, so keep an eye on that. That'll definitely be in all our social media feeds, on the newsletter, and also you'll see it on the site as well. So with that, thank you everybody for joining us. If you have any other questions, please feel free to shoot a note, write a comment, hit us up in social media, and we will go from there. I'm going to make a plug for Philip's resource that he runs as well, Apostolic Sunday School. Really awesome stuff. That object lesson I was talking about with tying the rope, he's got a cool video on that there, so you can check it out. And he's got a lot of great object lesson resources. What I'll say is really good is, me personally, I'm always all about like perusing YouTube and other sites to get cool ideas. But something worth pointing out is you can get the idea, but sometimes it's kind of hard to actually think up like how to tie it to a lesson.
Yeah.
And so he's done a really good job with that. So check it out. I think you'll really like it. And we also regularly on Next Level Kidmin try to point out a lot of different craft ideas, snack ideas, and object lessons as well. So you can check out that stuff. Yeah.
I stole your big.
I know.
Awesome.
That looks so cool. So absolutely, like that type of stuff. Hey, like let's be sharing that stuff. If you have ideas that you want to share with the overall Kidmin community, please respond back in one of those different venues and let us know. We want to be able to share this stuff with everybody, right? So all of our ministries get better. So again, thank you everybody for taking some time tonight to hang out with us. Hopefully this has been helpful. If you have some comments, please let us know. We love feedback, and hope to see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
If you like this video, make sure to click subscribe so that you can stay in the loop for more Kidmin tips, tricks, and ideas. See you in the next video.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.